Hello, everybody. Good morning. I hope everyone's doing good Sunday morning. If you wanted to, you know, stick to the routine of having a Sunday sermon, but yet you want to know the truth, this is the perfect place for you to be right now. Because I'm not going to sugarcoat any of this. This is some evil stuff that's going on in the Old Testament. Where we left off last time, we were going through the story. We were in Leviticus. We are now in Numbers. This is a very important book of the Bible. There's a lot of questionable things that happen. Oh my gosh, like countless questionable things. This really is the book this is where the mind control, grooming, generational grooming truly begins. So, without any further ado, let's get into Numbers. Now, where are we at in Numbers? Numbers 1. Well, Moses and the Israelites had just narrowly escaped with their lives. I'm sure some of them didn't. To the desert, Sinai, at the foot of Mount Sinai. This is where we're at. And, at this point, they've already gotten their little tabernacle, their set up camp to go tabernacle, where they can, break down and put back together anytime they need to, an altar, a tent, and, the stuff that they need for their things that they do for Yahweh, the creepy, weird things. So, they've got all that established, and right now, God, or Yahweh, I don't want to really even call it God, Yahweh wants them there in where Mount Sinai is. Now, the first thing Yahweh wants Moses to do, funny enough, is to take a census of how many Israelites there are. Going from each tribe, and there's 12 tribes, going from tribe to tribe to tribe, and count all the Israelites. In particular, count men 20 years or older. Wanted to know how many fighting men he had to work with. So that's what they did. And they came out with the number 603,550 fighting age men. That's a lot. That's like 500,000. That's a lot. And obviously Yahweh decides that anytime that the tabernacle moves, since these articles are just too important and whatnot, and since they are technically his slaves, according to him, the Levites are the ones to always handle that. And obviously, Aaron and his descendants will always be the priests. And that anybody else who, approaches the tabernacle or anything without, the proper permission or without a priest or a Levite is obviously to be put to death. The no forgiveness given, no quarter received. They're just to be put to death. And, it goes into the family lines and the things like that. But I'm not concerned about bloodlines. You know what I mean? I don't really care about that. I'm more concerned about the theology and the morals that they're trying to teach. That's really what I care the most about. Now, amongst the Levites, there were 3 tribes, and they're not important right this moment, but they will be later. Okay, the 3 tribes who are, the 3 sons of Levi's descendants, who are the Gershonites, the Kohathites, and the Merarites. The Merarites. Sorry, I'm really trying. I don't like mispronouncing stuff, but I'm just notoriously bad at it. I'm doing my best. Okay, so yeah, those 3 tribes become important. Now, they're the ones who are supposed to handle all the holy things whenever they go and move. They're supposed to carry it all, but they're not supposed. There's lots of rules for them too. They're supposed to wear certain clothes, and they're not supposed to look directly at any of the holy things, or they'll die. Obviously, they'll just die. But okay. And then we get to Numbers 5. They go a little bit more into the rules, the basic rules Yahweh has for them. Restitutions for wrongs, a test for an unfaithful wife, which is very interesting. Okay. Basically, if a husband just suspects his wife is cheating, he doesn't know she's cheating, but he suspects. This is a test. He takes her to a priest. The priest basically gives her cursed water. And the thing is if she is unfaithful, the water will curse her in her womb. But if she, is not unfaithful and hasn't committed any sin, the water isn't supposed to harm her. So basically, it's all good as long as she didn't mess around on her man. You know what? That sounded like a terrifying thing to do for a woman back then. So that's just, my opinion. Anywho. Number 6 is interesting. It's just basically like a whole spiel about a Nazarite. Basically, if they want to make a special promise to Yahweh, they're not to drink fermented stuff. They're supposed to grow their beards out. I don't know. It's a lot. Not really something maybe I should go into, but it's really not important to our purposes. But it's a lot. If it's interesting, if you want to read it yourself, it's number 6. Okay. Anyhow. And number 7, like, oh my gosh, it is so freaking long. And really all it is just all the offerings that the leaders give to the priest to give to the temple. It is there's really no need to go through that. If you want to, number 7. Okay, we get to, Numbers 8, and they set apart the Levites, and they go into why the Levites are different and set apart and technically are Yahweh slaves. This is why. Because when they were in Egypt, when they did the very last plague, where Yahweh sent one of his bitches out to kill every single firstborn baby in Egypt, right? The Israels were informed that if they put that mark of blood on their door thresholds, their firstborn babies would be spared. And it would just be like the Egyptian babies that got killed. Well, there was still a price to pay for that, because in Yahweh's mind, every single firstborn belongs to him. Every firstborn human, every firstborn animal, like all the firstborns all belong to him. That's what he thinks in his mind. So the price that they paid for not giving up their firstborn during all that when they were in Egypt was the whole entire tribe of Levi would belong to Yahweh. Like technically they would be, like I said, his slaves. Like they were responsible for carrying out all the work for his sacrifices so he could eat. You know what I mean? They call it like his priests and whatnot. They were basically glorified cooks. You know what I mean? Like for real. I'm sorry. Maybe it's not that funny. No, it's not funny. I'm sorry. But they were basically like just cooking food for Yahweh all day long, moving the enclosures and breaking it down and putting it back together wherever they went from place to place to place. So that's why, or the excuse he gives, which is funny because, and you know what? Never mind. Let's move on. And then Numbers 9 goes into more details about the Passover, how they're supposed to, celebrate it at the appointed time every year. And the Passover was, in Egypt when they were passed over and were spared from having to give up their newborns as a sacrifice and whatnot. But I would argue that doesn't necessarily, you'll see why. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. Talks about the silver trumpets, how whenever they blow 2 trumpets, everyone is to assemble. When they blow 1 trumpet, it's only the leaders that are supposed to assemble, etc., etc., etc. And then finally we get to the point, on the 20th day of the 2nd month of the 2nd year, they finally leave Mount Sinai. And basically how they knew they were supposed to leave is like, there was this mysterious cloud that would descend over their little set up tabernacle and stuff and would stay there. And as long as this mysterious cloud was there, they would be there. Every time this mysterious cloud lifted up, they would pack it all up and go. So that's very curious. Kind of lets me know that there's, not to get into the ancient alien theorists too much, but this is what I personally believe. I believe it is some sort of either alien or very intelligent human who is grooming them. This is where the grooming basically begins. You know what I mean? He's taken them. I mean, just think about it. At this point, after everything that occurred in Egypt, after everything that went down, there's really no chance that they can go back to Egypt and fully be welcomed. Like, I'm sure the Egyptians are a little, like, if all this really did happen, I'm sure the Egyptians are a little bitter. I'm sure they kind of look at Israel as if they were the problem. And I think that was intentional. You know what I mean? I think that was intentional. So they're kind of like orphaned in a way in a desert. In a desert, there's no food, no water. They're cut off from everywhere. You know what? They have nowhere to go. So they're isolated. Yahweh has successfully isolated this large group of people. And the only thing that they had to eat was manna. Manna, would rain down 6 days a week. On the 6th day, it would rain extra. We've been over this. So that way, on the 7th day, they would have extra manna to eat. Well, now, at this point, this has been a couple years going on like this. It's been a couple years by the time they leave Mount Sinai. And as they're going and, traveling along, at some point, the Israelites started complaining. Let's see. We're at Numbers 11. Okay, Numbers 11. Now the people complained about their hardships in the hearing of the Lord. And when he heard them, his anger was aroused. Then fire from the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. When the people cried out to Moses, he prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down. So that place was called Taberah, which means burning, or Taberah, because fire from the Lord had burned among them. So, I don't know what their complaints were or how aggressively they were complaining. It doesn't really matter, though. That's a pretty aggressive response. You know what I mean? It's like, especially if you're more intelligent than they are, and you're the one who's supposed to, know better than they are, and you get so angry that your immediate reaction is to kill some of them. Or maybe it wasn't out of passion. Maybe this is just part of it, to let them know not to get out of line. Part of the mind control grooming. Well, we go on further, and more people start to complain about the food, about the manna. And in fact, my Bible, it says in verse 4, Numbers 11:4, the rabble with them began to crave other food. And again, the Israelites started wailing and said, if only we had meat to eat. Verse 5 and 6, we remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. Also, the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, the garlic. But now we have lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna. And obviously, Yahweh didn't like this. He didn't appreciate them not being grateful for the little bit of food he does give them. And he gets mad. And of course, Moses gets stressed out because he knows that Yahweh's getting mad and the people are getting upset. So it's like everyone's getting upset at poor Moses. So he kind of has a little mini nervous breakdown. Numbers 11:11. He asked the Lord, why have you brought this trouble on your servant? What have I done to displease you that you put the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I give them birth? Why do you tell me to carry them in my arms as a nurse carries an infant to the land you promised on oath to their ancestors? Where can I get meat for all these people? They keep wailing to me, give us meat to eat. I cannot carry all these people by myself. The burden is too heavy for me. If this is how you are going to treat me, please go ahead and kill me if I have found favor in your eyes, and do not let me face my own ruin. Now, it seems like at first Yahweh, he considers this. And he's like, okay, fair enough. And he tells him to bring him 70 of the elders of the other Israelites, so that way he can split the burden among them. Verse 17, he says, I will come down and speak with you there, and I will take some of the power of the Spirit that is on you and put it on them. They will share the burden of the people with you so that you will not have to carry it alone. So then they do all that, and you know what I mean? And then he says, the Lord will give you meat to eat. But he's still not happy about the complaining. So he makes sure to add in verses 19 to 20, you will not eat it just for 1 day, or 2 days, or 5, 10, or 20 days, but for a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils and you loathe it, because you have rejected the Lord who is among you and have wailed before him, saying, why did we ever leave Egypt? Yeah. And Moses, a little, cautious, he's a little uneasy about this because he's among a lot of people. A lot of people. And he doesn't, understand how Yahweh would be able to provide all that meat for all these people. Especially, I'm sure, if they have to, sacrifice most of it to him. You know what I mean? And, Yahweh says, what, you don't think I can do it? Why don't you just wait and see if I'll do it or not? And he's like, all right. Fair enough. But the thing is though, Yahweh can't quite contain his anger. I don't know, something about seeing the people get meat, what they want, it really pissed him off. It really, really, really pissed him off because there was some kind of parasite or infection in the quail that he sent for them to eat. And a lot of them, I think, died because of wait, do I have that right? Yeah, a lot of them died because the meat was poison. And they all died from a plague. So, like I said, he's supposed to be the more evolved one, and he's just basically killing people because they were hungry for something else. Because they were complaining about having to eat. Man, this had been going on for years at this point. I mean, it's not like they had just started getting manna. I don't know. It sounds very manipulative to me. I mean, they're probably right. Why not just stay in Egypt? I mean, like they said, they got all that food and garlic and seasonings for free. And here they are in a desert, hot desert, barely any water. Anywho. Okay. In Numbers 12, there becomes a little tension and strife among Moses and his siblings, Miriam and Aaron. Because apparently they were upset that he had married a Cushite. Which is also very interesting because people would typically get killed for marrying. Anyway, by Yahweh, he doesn't like it when they marry. You know what I mean? But, I don't know. Miriam and Aaron were quite upset. And apparently, hold on a minute. I'm trying to find the verse. Hold up. Oh, okay, yeah. They also, it must be about more than just his wife, because it's if Yahweh can talk to you, why can't he talk to us? I don't know where this is coming from, because I already thought he kind of did. Aaron is a priest after all. I know Miriam probably isn't, but Aaron is. I don't know. But it pissed Yahweh off, and he decided to punish Miriam. And all of a sudden she got struck with leprosy, her skin started turning white, and then Moses was upset. Obviously this is his sister. He's like, please don't. And Yahweh's like, okay, all right, fine, I'll heal her. But she's still got to be confined for 7 days. So she is. And, I guess that was that for that situation. Making it clear to Aaron and Miriam that, he might speak to them in dreams or visions whenever, one of them is a prophet. But, Moses is the only one who gets to talk to him face to face, basically. Moses is the only one who gets to see his face. And isn't that interesting? Because that kind of somewhat implies that this very much is a physical being and not a spiritual being. My opinion. Okay, so we get to Numbers 13, and this is when they kind of get like on the border of Canaan. And so Moses picks some scouts from like the leaders of each tribe, sends them out to, go explore Canaan, check it out, suss out the land, see how much food they have, see how many people they have, see what it's like. You know what I mean? Is it really flowing with milk and honey? This and that and the third. And so they do. Caleb and Joshua are among them. And it's interesting. They come back. They come back from their little exploration. And all of them, but like Caleb and Joshua, I think, all of them are like freaked out because they're like, well, yeah, it's great and all. There's lots of food. It's flowing with milk and honey. But the problem are there are descendants of Anak there. Who are Anak? They were a race of giants. And that sounds very similar to like Anunnaki. I don't know if they're related to the Anunnaki or not. But anyway, that's a weirdly similar name. And if you look in the other English translations, this is Numbers 13 verse 28. And if you look in the other English translation of it, sometimes it's Anakites, Anakim, which sounds similar to Elohim, which is in the beginning of the Bible. So, I don't know. It's another thing that makes me believe that there's like two agendas going on. And it's kind of hard to tell throughout the Bible which agenda is which. We can tell very much right now that this is a very evil agenda, like it's outright evil. Other books are a little harder to tell. But right now we can tell that there's a lot of evil going on. And that I'm sure, and it's hard to blame the Israelites or Moses, because now they were tricked, and now they're in this situation where they like have no choice. Like, can you imagine if I'm sure they all just decided to leave? Yahweh would have just killed them all there on the spot. I have no doubt. I mean, because he apparently doesn't have a problem with killing some of them. I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem killing all of them if they just refused to do what he said. Like, because like once they left Egypt, it was like that was it. They kind of, in my opinion, were stuck. That's just my opinion. So it's hard to blame them, but anywho, I'm trying to hold out compassion for them. Because this is a bad situation to be in. A really shitty situation. And not only just him, now it's like 500,000 people. Or at least 500,000 men. Shoot, it's probably 1 million people. But anywho. So, they all get upset with each other. You know what I mean? They're arguing. Caleb's saying, what are you talking about? We can beat them. We can beat these giants. Don't be afraid. And they're all sitting there arguing. And then at some point, it gets to the point in Numbers 14 where a bunch of them are just like, why don't we just go back to Egypt? We'll just elect a leader to take us back to Egypt. And this obviously pisses Yahweh off. This pisses him off. It pisses him off to the point where he is about to slaughter them all. It says it right here. Numbers 14, 11 to 12. The Lord said to Moses, how long will these people treat me with contempt? How long will they refuse to believe in me, despite all these signs I have performed for them? I will strike them down with a plague and destroy them, but I will make you into a nation greater and stronger than them. Basically telling Moses, okay, I'm going to kill all of them. Forget all of them. I'm going to make you and your descendants a greater nation. Like, it's almost like he wanted to, like, go back to, like, reset it because he had started this with Abraham. Remember? Back in Genesis. He started this with Abraham. Now he's thinking about starting over again, but with Moses. Fortunately, Moses does have some humanity. And he's like, he pleads with Yahweh. And he even like convinces him with this in verse 13. Moses said to the Lord, then the Egyptians will hear about it. By your power you brought these people up from among them, and they will tell the inhabitants of this land about it. They have already heard that you, Lord, are with these people, and that you, Lord, have seen face to face that your cloud stays over them, and that you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and night. If you put all these people to death, leaving none alive, the nations who have heard this will report it about you and say, the Lord was not able to bring these people into the land he promised them on oath, so he slaughtered them in the wilderness. Now, this speaks to Yahweh. He's like, okay, fair enough. All right. I won't kill them all, even though I want to really bad. So, since you've begged, I will forgive them. But he can't let it go completely. This is what he decides, even though I think this was the plan all along. He decides, he's like, well, okay. Basically, this whole generation will die. None of you all who are alive right now will ever set foot in the promised land, except for the ones who obviously encourage you all to go back, like Caleb and Joshua. They'll get to see it. They will. But none of the rest of y'all will. Your children will, but you won't. Now I want to pause there for a minute, because this sounds super similar to the making of the slave blueprint, where it's like you focus on the second generation. The first generation isn't as important as the second generation. So Yahweh is just basically saying, so I'm going to groom the second generation out here in the desert where they're miserable and basically starving and dying of dehydration. I'm going to groom them out here. And then I will give you the promised land. Funny how the terms keep changing like that. Of course, it's convenient, I guess, since they're all, freaked out about the giants in the land, which to me seems like a natural response, which leads me to believe that Yahweh was just looking at an excuse to do just this. And they gave him one. Unintentionally. Okay, here it is. Oh my gosh, it's great. Okay. Because about at least 5 times in this one chapter, whenever he's talking about whether it's the meat offering or the flour offering or whatever, no matter which one he's talking about, he always ends with an aroma pleasing to the Lord. So this confirms gives credence to my suspicion that these sacrifices that they were giving back then were basically just meals for Yahweh and his cronies. That's just my opinion. You know what I mean? I don't think a sacrifice was really a sacrifice. I think it was a meal. In fact, I think every time, I'm starting to think that every time that we kill an animal to eat, that is what they were doing, basically. But they just called it, sacrifice. You know what I mean? I don't know. I could be wrong. But okay, we're still in chapter 15. And suddenly, we get to a point where someone in the Israelite camp breaks a big rule. Someone broke the Sabbath. How did he break the Sabbath? Well, the Israelites found him gathering wood on the Sabbath day. And they didn't know exactly what to do. So Moses and Aaron decided to consult Yahweh. What do we do? So, Numbers 15, verses 35 to 36. The Lord said to Moses, the man must die, and the whole assembly must stone him outside the camp. So that's what they did. They didn't question Yahweh. A man who was just gathering wood, no more, yeah, he knew that this was a rule, but maybe he needed that wood. Maybe they were cold. Maybe, you know what I mean? People make mistakes. It was like, oh shit, maybe he just didn't have time to gather the wood the day before. It didn't matter to Yahweh. This was the point, though. And this is why I think it's very telling that the whole assembly had to do it. Not just Moses or Aaron take him out camp, punish him. No. The whole assembly needed to watch it. They needed to watch it so they knew what would happen to them if they ever made just a simple error in forgetting to gather wood the day before. That's evil. This is evil, guys. I don't care who you are. The man was just gathering wood. Yeah, I don't care who you are. But Yahweh wanted everyone to see it. He wanted everyone to see it. And it's funny because even though he's gathering wood on Sabbath, they would break Sabbath by stoning him. So, he obviously didn't care about that as much as he cared about the fact that the rule was being broken. He couldn't take it. Now, things really start to get interesting, in my opinion, in chapter 16. Because some of the leaders of the Levites, Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, they're upset with Moses. Like, they really are upset about all these, like, rules, how they're treated versus how the others are treated. And this is what they have to say. Numbers 16, verse 3. They came as a group to oppose Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You have gone too far. The whole community is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is with them. Why then do you set yourselves above the Lord's assembly?" So Moses doesn't like it. He gets upset, tells them that they've gone too far, and basically summons them to come to him. To which they refuse. They refuse. And this, in fact, here, let me read the whole response, because they make a very valid point. Okay, Numbers 16, verses 12 to 14. Then Moses summoned Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab. But they said, "We will not come. Isn't it enough that you've brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness?" They're talking about Egypt. Like, basically, Egypt already was flowing with milk and honey. "To kill us in the wilderness, and now you also want to lord it over us? Moreover, you haven't brought us into a land flowing with milk or honey, or given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Do what you want to treat these men like slaves? No, we will not come." So then Moses gets really angry. He gets very defensive and basically tells Yahweh, "Don't accept their offering. Don't accept it." So, and then in verse 16, he tells Korah, "You and all your followers are to appear before the Lord tomorrow. You and they and Aaron. Each man is to take his censer." Oh yeah, and he, tells them what to do, all the incense and all this, what they're supposed to do to appease Yahweh. But when Korah and his followers go to the tent of the meeting, they go in defiance, and that's never a good idea. Yahweh has a temper. So Yahweh immediately tells Moses, "You need to get away from these men right now, because I'm going to kill them all." But Moses and Aaron both tried to stop Yahweh. They fell face down, in verse 22, fell face down and cried out, "O God, the God who gives breath to all living things, will you be angry with the entire assembly when only one man sins?" Then the Lord said to Moses, "Say to the assembly, move away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram." Oh, so basically Yahweh was about to kill them all again, but then decides just to kill the ones who are breaking the rules. Damn. So basically he separated them. They had to go stand in a separate location. And Moses basically said, "This is how you know that the Lord has truly sent me and is working through me. They die a natural death, you know I'm a fraud. But if something happens right now that kills them all, you know that I am Yahweh's bitch," basically. And then the ground all of a sudden opened up and swallowed those tribes whole as soon as he finished talking. Like, the moment he finished talking. And then it closed back over them. That's interesting. That is very interesting. So then everyone starts panicking, like, "Oh my God, no, the Lord's going to swallow us all." Which is exactly what Yahweh wanted. He wanted them all to see it. You know what I mean? This is like conditioning, trauma, mind conditioning is what they're doing. Because not just the Israelites are seeing all this, all the children are seeing all this too. They're witnessing this all. And this was what Yahweh wanted. He wanted them to witness it all. He wanted them to witness it all. So, and basically, this is when Yahweh basically, reaffirms that Aaron and his lineage only are to be priests. The Levites are basically just servants to Aaron. Even though they belong to Yahweh too, but they're servants to Aaron. Aaron and his lineage alone are allowed to go in the sanctuary and whatnot. Everyone else is to be put to death immediately. It's according to the law of Moses. And then it goes into more detail, chapter 18, about how to separate the offerings and whatnot for the Levites and the priests. Now, Numbers 20 is where things get interesting again. Because this becomes a bridge too far for Moses, or Aaron specifically. Because days start to go by, everyone's thirsty, people are starting to die because there's nothing to drink. Miriam dies. It doesn't say if that's how she died, but she dies. And all the Israelites, are, dehydrated. They need water. They started quarreling with Aaron and Moses. Like, why don't you just kill us back when the earth swallowed, the Levites, or half the Levites, or however many of the Levites. Like we need water to drink or we're going to die. So Moses and Aaron go and, ask the Lord what to do. That they're thirsty. Now, this is where translations, across translation, gets a little different. Because my Bible doesn't really, talk about how upset Moses and Aaron really were. Or how many times they tried to ask Yahweh for water. So, anyway, they're upset. Because Aaron ends up losing his life for this reason. Because Yahweh says specifically for Aaron to gather the community together around the rock. And that water will come out for everyone to drink. But apparently Aaron refused to do this. So Moses took the staff to do it. He had to hit it twice, but water came out. But Yahweh's not happy about this. Even they break the rule a little bit. Even just a little bit. It's enough for him to want to kill somebody. Or everybody. But luckily for the Israelites, he just kills Aaron. And it's interesting because he kills Aaron on Mount Hor. Hor. Seems like he likes to kill the leaders on mountains. I don't know. I could be wrong. But because Moses himself ends up dying on a mountain. Anywho. So they continue their travels, because they like to travel in circles they just like wandering through the desert. You know what I mean? And they, destroy a whole entire Canaanite community on the way. But I guess in their defense, the Canaanites, I think, attacked them first. I could be wrong, but they were kind of trespassing. I don't know. I wasn't there. So they keep, and obviously this is getting just too much for the Israelites. This has been years and years of this, just wandering the desert. So they start to complain again. They don't like the food that they eat the same thing every single day, no seasonings. They're basically being treated like prisoners and slaves. And that they barely even get water at this point. They're dehydrated. They're not even fulfilling their bodily needs. So obviously they're grumbling and complaining. But it pisses Yahweh off. So what does he do? He sends a bunch of venomous snakes on the path to bite them. And once again, poor Moses comes to his people's defense. Prays to Yahweh to make it stop. So he gives them a bronze snake. And as long as they look at the bronze snake, they would live. They'd still get bit, but they would live. They wouldn't, die from the venom. I know, right? I know! That's just crazy. Why'd you even send the snakes to be... just purposely making their lives more miserable. And this is the point. He's grooming them. He's traumatizing them and grooming them, scaring them, filling them with fear, making slaves. And for now, I'm gonna leave it off here at Numbers 21. Pick up same chapter when they defeat Sihon and Og. We'll pick that up next time, hopefully Wednesday. I want to try to do this do these sermons twice a week. I'm gonna try. I can't. Don't hold me to it. But at the very least, I'll be back next Sunday. So stay tuned. More is coming. Thanks for listening.